Hello everybody, in this video, I'll be revisiting the GTX 1060 6GB now in 2021 with 15 games. Is this mid-range GPU from 2016 still good enough today? Let's find it out together. The GTX 1060 was released on July 19, 2016. It was meant to compete against AMD's mid-range offering, the RX 480. The GTX 1060 6GB performed better compared to the RX 480 early in the release. We'll take a look on a comparison between the GTX 1060 6GB versus the RX 480 4GB for a future video, so make sure to subscribe to not miss it. Anyways, the GTX 1060 was a success. In fact, to this day, it is the most utilized graphics card according to the Steam survey. It has been 5 years since it's released. Hopefully, next generation cards will offer amazing value just like what the 1060 and the RX 580 offered years ago. But we can only hope. The GPU market is really messed up. The GTX 1060 6GB has 1280 CUDA cores, 6GB of GDDR5 VRAM with a 192-bit bus, running at a speed of 8 gigabits per second that equates to 192 gigabytes a second of memory bandwidth. Nvidia really nailed the performance per watt with this GPU. It only consumes 120 watts of power. The Gigabyte GeForce GTX 1060 WindForce OC 6GB is the GTX 1060 6GB we'll be testing today. It has a higher boost clock compared to the Founders Edition, from 1708 to 1797 MHz. That's a 5% increase in the boost clock. The memory speed remains unchanged at 8 gigabits per second. Let's take a look at this graphics card. This graphics card looks good. There are better looking 1060s in the market, but this is still good. The shroud is black with some orange accent on it, typical of Gigabyte brand. It has a plastic backplate. I would have preferred if it was metallic though. Anyways, it still looks better compared to not having one. It is cooled by a pair of 90mm fan that rotates alternately to reduce air turbulence and improve the cooling effectiveness, at least according to Gigabyte. They are silent and you can just barely hear them when on intense workloads. It has a block of aluminum heatsink, a single copper heat pipe. This is definitely a cheap heatsink design, though the temperatures are alright, since the graphics card is efficient and doesn't utilize a lot of power during workloads such as gaming. Unfortunately, for the RGB lovers, this GPU doesn't have one, so you might need to take a look on another graphics card for that. To power it all, it requires a 6-pin power connector. Here is the complete specification of this graphics card, and the driver version in which the games are tested. And here is the test system we'll be running it on. Before I show the benchmark results, I want to say that the background gameplay is not the benchmark run. It is a completely separate gameplay. It is recorded via Nvidia Shadowplay. Background gameplay is still being run with the same settings and system spec including the GPU. I benchmark a specific area that is replicable 3 times so I can get reliable results. All of that out of the way, let's see the results of 15 games I benchmarked. Valorant ran amazingly with this GPU. The GTX 1060 6GB was able to offer around 275 FPS average and 1% loss of 127. This game is an esports title, so achieving high frame rate is pretty easy. Having a more powerful CPU would actually benefit your Valorant FPS more than your graphics card. So if you're like me that has a R7 2700 or something similar, upgrading to an R5 5600X or an i5 12600K is what you should do. Fortnite on high settings ran great with the GTX 1060 6GB. An average FPS of 93 and 1% loss of 48, this is good FPS to still be competitive even at high settings. Though if you're not a casual player and looking for a more stable 144 FPS, you can lower the graphics and achieve that. Overall, the experience with the GTX 1060 6GB on Fortnite was pleasurable. GTA 5 is an old game now, and the GTX 1060 can run it pretty well. With an average FPS of 98 and 1% loss of 78, the experience is amazing. You can definitely enjoy GTA 5 with this FPS. Hopefully, Rockstar will release GTA 6 in the near future, but I don't see that happening. Call of Duty Warzone experience was acceptable. If you're a casual player, an average FPS of 78 and 1% loss of 60 should be enough. Though, if you're a serious Warzone player and like being competitive, a GPU upgrade will really help you achieve higher frame rates. Battlefield 5 frame rates compared to Call of Duty was better. An average FPS of 81 and 1% loss of 55 makes this game run a little bit more fluidly. You can achieve higher FPS by lowering the graphics a little further if you want to be more competitive in this game. This game ran pretty good with the GTX 1060 6GB, 100 FPS average and 1% loss of 73. This is quite decent for a competitive span point. Though, surely, having 144 FPS is better, but I deem 90 FPS to be the minimum to be competitive in a game. Lowering the graphics a little bit more will yield higher and more stable frames. The GTX 1060 6GB did really good with Forza Horizon 4. 100 FPS average and 1% loss of 78, it was a pleasurable experience to play with. Since the game is a racing game, it doesn't require extremely high frame rates. I do believe that you can get away with 60 FPS. I'd prefer having better graphics than higher FPS in these types of games. Doom Eternal massacred the GTX 1060 3GB, but the bigger brother, with a higher VRAM buffer, did way better. 102 FPS average and 1% loss of 70 for this single-player, fast-paced first-person shooter is great. It is definitely enough to enjoy this game. Oh, Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk 2077 is an old graphics card killer. This game brought the mighty GTX 1060 6GB to its knees. An average FPS of 44 and 1% loss of 32, the gameplay was pretty choppy. 60 FPS is the minimum nowadays, and lower, at least for me, is not playable. So if you want to play this game, you need a better GPU for sure. Splitgate gaming experience with the GTX 1060 6GB was really good. 221 FPS average and 1% loss of 133. You can't complain about this graphics card performance in this game. You can't blame the stutters when you miss your aim. So, if you're a competitive Splitgate player, this GPU is perfectly enough for you. GTX 1060's performance in this game is amazing, nearly averaging 300 FPS, 291 FPS to be exact, and 1% loss of 183. If you have a 144Hz monitor, this graphics card wouldn't even go below its refresh rate. So, if you have the GTX 1060 6GB and likes to be competitive with Rocket League, this GPU is still running strong even after all these years. The FPS that this GPU is capable of giving in this game is perfectly enough with War Thunder. It's not a fast-paced, fast-person shooter, and usually the people who position their vehicle better wins. So having extremely high frame rates isn't necessary. That being said, the GTX 1060 still crushed it with an average of 156 FPS and 1% loss of 106. Overwatch, unlike War Thunder, is a fast-paced shooter, so higher frame rates is necessary to be competitive in this game, and the GTX 1060 definitely delivers that kind of performance. An average frames of 135 and 1% loss of 79 at high settings, this is pretty good. But let's be honest, competitive players will be running Overwatch at low graphics anyways. Red Dead Redemption 2 experience wasn't the best. An average frames of 49 and 1% loss of 29. This is probably enough to finish the missions, but as I said before, having 60 FPS is a must, at least for me nowadays. And finally, the last game we'll be testing today, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. This game's performance was similar to Red Dead Redemption 2, just a tiny bit better. An average FPS of 50 and 1% loss of 32, you can definitely play it, if you're okay with having your game running below 60 FPS. After seeing all these results, I must say that the GTX 1060 can still hold its ground to this day, with most of the games we have tested. But some other games like Cyberpunk 2077 was horrible to play. It all boils down to what types of games you still play and still enjoy. Don't expect it to run AAA titles at max settings and get high frame rates with this GPU. It's 5 years old, give it a break. Though, esports title like Valorant will run amazingly. But if your goal is to play the latest AAA titles, then you should upgrade your GPU if you're running something similar to the GTX 1060. Though, during this time, GPUs are extremely rare. So, good luck on finding one. I would like to thank all of you who subscribed to my channel. We've finally broke the 100 subscriber mark. Let's go, dude! Thank you all to my subscribers. Thanks everybody who watches, likes, and leave their comments on my video. I appreciate every single one of you. I'm sorry I haven't been posting as frequently as before, but I have been busy for the past few weeks. I'm still checking my channel regularly, but making videos requires lots of time and effort. I will be posting videos but not as frequently as before. I'll try to post at least twice a month. Just like I said, I still check my channel regularly, so I'm still reading your comments. Thanks for watching the video, everybody. I would appreciate your support, so if you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like. Subscribe to not miss upcoming videos, leave a comment because it helps with the algorithm. Just if you want to. If you have questions or suggestions or anything, just type it in the comments. I will reply when possible. Share this video if you think someone would want to see it. I appreciate all of you viewers of this channel. Take care and see you next time. Bye!